Hi, this is Mike Brown, owner of Death Wish Coffee Company. Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast.
I love Jeff, but sweet and high. Mr. Motorama Coffee Spot.
Death Wish Coffee presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast. With your hosts, the incredible Jeff and the amazing D-Man.
Welcome, everybody. It's episode number 21.
Oh, my brother said we should drink on this one. We totally forgot to get a bunch of alcohol for this one.
Well, when it's over, we're definitely cracking open a beer.
It's done.
I am the incredible Jeff.
And I'm Dustin.
Oh, okay. Wow, we're growing up. We're 21 years old. We're not going to go by our nicknames anymore.
Our superhero names.
Yeah, we are. You are the amazing D-Man. You'll always be the amazing D-Man. Always start our episodes by thanking our friend Brock Powell, brockvox.com, for all your voice acting needs. He's incredible, and all the stuff he's doing over at Unpop Entertainment. Go follow them and go laugh.
Also, if you need horrible voice acting done, Jeff and I can do that.
That's true. We definitely can. We're really excited about this episode. It is the number 5 in our employee series.
And we were talking about getting Thomas on for a while now because we talk about him all the time because he makes all these cool things for you awesome people to buy on deathwishcoffee.com, but he is our graphic designer and our all-round art guy here at Death Wish.
Yeah, so we're going to have a really cool conversation with him later in the episode. This is it, guys. This is the last week for the decanter contest. The last possible week. If you're listening to this episode on the week that it comes out, April 27th, you have until May 3rd to keep entering, keep tweeting, keep sharing, keep subscribing. And 3 lucky winners will get a rare, one-of-a-kind decanter.
I hope I win.
Announced on the May 4th episode, next week's episode.
I'm gonna win it.
Yeah.
Secret code unlocked. Discount of death.
This week, if you type in the word art, which are the letters A and R and T, you get 20% off the skeleton key coffee scoop that Thomas Dragonette himself designed.
From the ground up.
So we're giving you a heavy discount on that so you can be part of his awesome work.
20%. Functional art, people. It's awesome.
Science!
So I've been excited for this week's science segment. I actually have been following this for a little bit, and it is super duper relevant. We're going to talk about the Cassini space probe, which has been orbiting Saturn. And on Saturday, this past Saturday, actually, it started its final run, its swan song, if you will. And it's pretty cool. Basically, it's going to go in between Saturn's rings, and it'll be the first time in history that a man-made object has ever existed in that space,
That we know of.
That we know of. Cassini was actually launched back in 1997. It took 7 years for it to get to Saturn. It first went to Venus and circled Venus a little bit, then actually circled Jupiter for a little bit, using the gravity of both of those to kind of skyrocket it over to Saturn. And it finally made it to Saturn in 2004. And it's been sending us all sorts of awesome photos and readings of not only Saturn, but its 63, I think, different moons that Saturn has.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, it has a ton of moons. So what happened is it's run out of gas, and instead of letting it just careen into the far reaches of space and kind of like end its scientific discovery there, what scientists have done is they have made it go one final pass past the primordial Earth-like moon that is Titan, the big moon of Saturn, and it's used its gravity to slingshot it and thread that needle in between the rings and the planet.
So it's kind of like cross our fingers, let's not run it into anything.
Right. And what's really cool about this is, like I said, it hit Titan on April 22nd on that Saturday. And the day before this episode was released, actually Wednesday, the 26th, will be the first time that it actually threads that needle. And it's going to do that 22 times, hopefully, in between now and September. And then its final one, it's going to kind of skip like a stone into Saturn's atmosphere and burn up.
Hopefully that all works out. It sounds like there's a lot of variables for error there.
Basically, what they're saying is the smallest speck of dust or ice could completely ruin all of this. But like I said, it's better to try than just let it drift off into space, because the amount of scientific discovery we might gain from this is insurmountable. And if you guys want to Google the most recent image that Cassini sent back, it was actually tweeted out from NASA on Earth Day. It's really, really cool. It's from Titan looking behind Saturn through its rings, and you can see Earth in the very, very far distance. And that's really, really neat. What's
real? It looks fake.
Well, that's color corrected, the photo that I'm showing you.
So it's a black and white
photo? It is a
photo?
black and white photo that it sent back to us. But what's really neat is that NASA talked about this a couple times, and they said that one of the things they were worried about was if they had let Cassini just kind of exist, and it could actually crash land into one of the moons. And you and I might think, whatever, but what that could actually do is contaminate the surface of those moons. And this is really science fiction-y, but in reality, if we're really thinking about space exploration and colonizing our solar system, in the future, we might want to build bases on some of the moons of Saturn because they are that close to being habitable for a base. I don't mean, atmosphere or anything, but we could maybe have a moon base, on some of those moons. But if we had this crash land into it, it could contaminate everything, and we wouldn't want to put anything there.
What if it crash lands on top of another Cassini?
Right? Then the Matrix, there's a glitch in there. So two things, there's going to be many things we're going to learn from this, but two things that we might learn between now and September is the actual length of a day on Saturn. We know it roughly to be about 10 and a half hours, but it's constantly changing because of the weather patterns on Saturn. The northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere of Saturn.
So it spins really fast.
Yeah, and the two different hemispheres actually spin differently. The weather does. So it actually affects the length of a day. So Cassini being as close to the planet that we've never had anything this close, we should be able to get a much better reading on that. And what also is cool is Cassini is going to be able to weigh the rings of Saturn and actually get a good idea of the weight of the ice particles in these rings. Now, what that's going to tell us is if we get a massive weight, if the numbers that we get back are absolutely massive, that's going to mean that these rings are as old as the solar system, and maybe that they were literally formed the same time Saturn was formed. But if they're not that massive of weight, that's going to mean that the rings were actually formed after Saturn was formed. So maybe it was the breakup of an asteroid belt or another moon entirely that created the rings. So we're going to really get some insight into the actual creation of the rings of Saturn.
That's where it starts getting scary for me, is when you start talking about like origins of the universe and some old ass rings around Saturn.
It's pretty
crazy,
cool.
Man.
So fingers crossed that everything goes the way that it's supposed to, and we get all that data for the next couple months. And it it's so cool that we created something on Earth back in the 90s. We shot it into space in 97.
You think they ever launch it and go, shit, we just came out with a better so-and-so?
Of course. I mean, by the time
like
they
a
launch,
few days later, just
look at
crap.
Look at Juno.
Yeah.
Juno, which is now orbiting Jupiter, is going to, in its final days, in a couple years down the road, in its final days, it's going to plummet itself into Jupiter. But we created that spacecraft to withstand the pressure and heat of the atmosphere, so hopefully it will crash land into the whatever is inside of Jupiter. With Cassini, we never thought about it, so we didn't make that spacecraft to be able to kind of exist in that realm. So we've already, upped our tech and upped our stuff.
Can you imagine when our technology, I'm trying to visualize this, our technology grows so quickly that the spacecrafts that we launch will surpass ones that we have launched in the past.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a name for that moment.
The future.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That'd be crazy. So it's like, hey, we launched this craft to Jupiter, but like 6 years ago, but we just came up with one with better drivers, or it's faster and it's
Right.
more controlled, that will totally surpass that, and it'll get to Jupiter before the one we launched 6 years ago.
Yeah,
There's going to be that moment, right?
We'll get to that moment, yeah. It's pretty neat.
Scary, Jeff.
What fuels you?
So this week we got to talk to Thomas Dragonette here at Death Wish Coffee, and we talked about art and life and work, and he had some really cool stuff to talk about. And one of the things he was kind of touching upon that I thought was a great thing that should fuel us all is the idea of no matter how much you learn, there's always another level. There's always this other thing that you can learn. There's always another nugget of information out there. You never get to that end result.
And, I feel like if you do think you have gotten to that end result, you're already being surpassed.
Yes.
You don't have enough time to be too impressed with yourself.
Right.
You got to keep on working, because as soon as you're complacent, you're not going to be the best anymore.
Exactly.
That's part of being the best. The people who are the best have that drive that never stops, that never stops and thinks, we're good. We're good here. I surpassed everybody. I'm good here. Because that's just not the way it works. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you learn. There's always something over that. And here's the thing. I mean, I feel like that's what has made the human race so amazing.
Yes.
And we are able to stand on the shoulders of these giants because they became giants.
Yes.
Because they were like, that's not enough. They say it's impossible, but it's not enough. I got to surpass that.
Yeah. I mean, talking about, our science segment this week, like space exploration, was literally fiction for hundreds of years. And then we went to the moon because somebody said, we're going to do that.
Yeah, they weren't like, oh, we found out the Earth is round. Okay, we're good. We'll just stop here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and there's the idea that, you can kind of get to the pinnacle of your hobby or your job, but it's not just all about that. It's about pushing your boundaries and learning how to apply yourself into what you're learning as well, learning how to manipulate who you are as a human being into the what you're pigeonholing yourself into, the hobby, the dream, the goal, the job, whatever it is.
And we talked about not living in relativity of others on the negative side, where if you're always comparing yourself to people that suck, you'll end up sucking.
Right.
But it goes the other way too, where if you're always comparing yourself to other people, you're not focusing on just bettering yourself to surpass the next level.
Right.
You just can't get caught up in what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Period. No matter what you're doing.
Keep pushing, keep going, keep striving, keep learning. There's always a next level.
Mugs up, homies.
This week on the community shout out, we're shouting out Lisa Wallerab. Like, we see you out there. You're always sharing this podcast, and we love you for it. I can't say it enough. What gets us going as a podcast is all of you. I mean, D-Man and I would do this just for the two of us.
I'm Dustin now.
Okay, Dustin and I would do this just for the two of us, just for our own enjoyment. But, when you guys are out there listening to it, sharing it, telling your friends about it, making social media posts about it, that's just helping us get out there to more and more listeners.
It definitely fuels us hardcore. And here's the ththing, too. Lisa and a lot of other people on the page are just positive.
Yes.
Like almost like 100% of the time. And it definitely makes me look at my day going, am I being positive enough?
Yes.
Like, do I have a good enough outlook? It's good.
We love the community that Death Wish Coffee has built. And, it has spawned all of these amazing pages, on social media, like the official page and Steve-O's page and Duke's page. And, everybody really remains positive and uplifting about our brand, our lifestyle, which is Death Wish Coffee. And thankfully, you guys include Fueled by Deathcast in that too. So, Lisa, this week, the shout out goes to you. You just got back from a pretty fun trip there, Dustin. I'm getting better at it.
Yeah. So last week, so it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was at the Specialty Coffee Association convention.
Yeah.
In Seattle, Washington, which is like
the mecca of coffee.
I mean, you got to hand it to Starbucks. They made awesome coffee a cool thing to drink.
Heck yeah.
And I thank them for that.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are.
Yes.
So that's why they have it in Seattle. So it's all of these vendors that are selling either cafe equipment like espressos or different kinds of brewers, or just random equipment, or people who sell green coffee or are packing supplies. They're all there. So I got to meet all the vendors that I've been working with forever, and
so cool.
And see them face to face, and now I can put a face to the name that I've been dealing with.
So who stood
long.
out for you?
A few people.
Okay.
I was really happy to meet Roast Star. They provide us with some of our bagging, and I've been working with them a lot. So, and they're out in the Midwest, so there's not many times,
opportunities. Yeah,
and I'm not going to go out to a bagging facility to see our bags being made. Let's be honest, but
Right.
it's great for conventions like these to meet these kinds of people. Also, I know that the people at home can't see it. But I got this cool new little clean canteen thing.
Yeah, like a little Day of the Dead skull on
But
it.
they're really cool, and they had a couple things to show us. So I think, mark it down. We're going to be working with them for some really cool stuff in the future.
That's no surprise. We love the people at Clean Canteen. I know all of you out there love the clean canteens that we've put out with the Death Wish logo on them and the Valhalla Java
and
logo.
I will be
on them.
bold enough to say, man, I really like their cold cup. And we did a cold cup last year, and I think
The blackout cup.
Yeah, I think if we do it this year, we'll probably work with them, and here's why. Their stainless straw had a nice silicone tip that turned over, so you're not biting onto a metal straw. The metal straw connected into the canister. The canister was just a little bit nicer. So
that's so cool. You get to see this stuff in person, like actually touch it, like sniff it.
Yeah.
The whole nine. Like
I didn't
really
go around
cool.
sniffing everything. Well, it's a coffee convention. I
Yeah,
sniffed
I was gonna
some
say you were
things.
probably sniffing some stuff.
They had a
right?
cool corner that was it was called the uppers and downers corner, which is all the coffee beer that
Yeah.
they have there. So
Yeah.
I spent a little bit of time in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I got to meet a lot of cool new companies, but met up with Planetary Design, who makes our vacuum seal canister. So those guys were cool.
Awesome.
And met up with Loring, who makes our roasters.
Yeah.
They were really cool. And I got to say, met up with AeroPress, and they had a couple of their champions making AeroPress coffee, and they did like a blind taste test. So I was talking to them, talking about their different ways they make it, because there's a lot of different ways you can make AeroPress coffee. It's not just pouring water into a tube with coffee grounds and
Right.
plunging it out. There's many, many different ways. And so they did a blind taste test where I turned around, they gave me the 2 cups of coffee. I tried each one, and there was quite a bit of difference.
Yeah.
I was surprised. And it was, same coffee, just different process. And I turned around, and it was the champion of last year that got my vote. But what I'm gonna do next week, Jeff, is I'm gonna show everybody how to make AeroPress coffee like a champion.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
I love learning new ways to make coffee. Ever since I started actually working full-time at Death Wish Coffee, I've started to use some of the different processes we have here, and learning it, because for so long I was just the guy, like most people, I was the guy that put coffee in my drip machine and hit the brew button, and then there you
There's
go.
no fun in that, man.
Yeah, so
yeah, I learned all of his cool little techniques, and I was obviously very impressed. So he made sure to show me each little bit of his moves. So I will bring it here, and I'll show you guys how to make his awesome coffee.
Awesome.
But that pretty much sums up the trip for the most part. It was hell of a lot of fun. Had a cool dinner with Paragon, who provides our green coffee, and got to meet a lot of
awesome.
other companies, and it was really cool, man.
awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you had a good time out there and met so many awesome people.
The Death Wish Death List.
I really like doing these death lists because a lot of times I learn about people that passed that I had no idea were even alive. And this week is one of those weeks.
I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here, is we're honoring not only people that we knew did awesome things, but that we should know that did awesome things.
Right. And this week we lost Magdalena Abakanowicz. Wow, I got her name terrible, and I'm very sorry. She was 86. She was a Polish artist and sculptor, and she is super famous Like, if you are into sculpting, you know who this woman is, and you're very angry at the way that I said her last name.
I was about to say, you could probably pronounce her name. If
Yeah. She was. This is a little bit about her life. She was born to a noble landowner family in Poland in 1930, and then by the time she was 9, which makes it 1939, she had to move because, as we all know, the Nazis invaded Poland at that point, and so everybody was displaced. So she was moving around with her family for a couple of years at that point, and then she ended up still being able to go to school and ended up going to college, and she studied art in college, but she was completely hindered by Stalin's socialist realism doctrine at the time, which basically limited any artist to only produce realistic artistic depictions of the 19th century, and that was Stalin's decree. So it was a total stifle on the artistic community at the time. But she persevered, and when that was finally lifted, she started to produce some really incredible works. Her first works were large watercolors, but then she moved on to weaving and sculpting. Once all those restrictions were lifted in the late 50s, artists were then allowed to travel to places like Paris and New York City. So she was really starting to immerse herself in world art at that time. Some of her most important work actually started in the 60s. In 1967, she started producing her series called Abacans, off of her name, gigantic woven structures from her own design that hung from ceilings. They were sometimes 13 feet in length, and they would almost touch the ground, from the ceiling to the ground, just like a millimeter off the ground. And this literally would firmly define her as one of the most influential artists of her time, because it was her own design, her own woven design, that she was doing this. In the 70s and 80s, she started shifting to working with resins, and she utilized the human form a lot, creating very famous works that were called Heads, Backs, and The Crowd One. And you can look those up. They're iconic, actually. In the 90s, she started working in bronze, and her most recent work is titled Agora. It's 106 9-foot-tall cast iron legs and feet, and it creates this sense of crowdedness, which, again, from the title Agora. And it's actually a permanent installation in Chicago's Grant Park, and you can see it to this day. She won many awards in her life and different recognitions, including the very prestigious Leonardo da Vinci World Award of Arts. And, like I said, what an incredible person that I really did not even know about.
I know next time I'm in Chicago, I'm going to check that out for sure.
Very,
that's really
very
cool.
Death wish you a happy birthday, though, this week. On Thursday, April 27th, the space ace himself, Ace Frehley is turning 66.
Who's Ace Frehley?
He founded a little band called Kiss.
Oh, did they kiss on stage or something?
On Friday, April 28th, the Dark Angel herself, Jessica Alba, is going to turn. Yes, I know you do. Sin City and the list of movies she's been in goes on and on. She'll be 36. On Saturday, April 29th, he's been called this many times, the Michael Jordan of skateboarding. Eric Costin is going to be 42 years old. And on Sunday, April 30th... I feel like
if the Michael Jordan of anything, if they were the Michael Jordan of anything, they wouldn't be the Michael Jordan. They would be, the other people would be the Eric Costin of...
There you go.
Of basketball.
That's what Michael Jordan is. There you go. But on Sunday, April 30th... the brand new Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, is going to be 32 years old on Sunday. So we like to wish everybody a happy birthday. And we're going to take a short break, and hopefully you got some goodies for us, D-Man.
Maybe a couple.
D-Man's Death Wish Update. Brought to you by Death Wish Coffee.
What do we got this week, D-Man?
The brew is loose.
The brew is loose.
So, we have released our amazing second run of Death Wish Nitro Brew Coffee.
It is so good, guys. Get on this. Really get on this. It's a perfect time of year to release it. It's starting to get nice outside. It's starting to get warm wherever you are. unless you live in the Arctic Circle, and then I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
But it's even good when you're up there. It is so refreshing. It's got the greatest after chocolatey taste to it. It's just.
I'm actually drinking it right now because it was like I don't have time to brew coffee, and I just want something refreshing because you get like thirsty. You're not going to drink a cup of hot coffee when you're thirsty, but you are going to slug back a Death Wish Nitro Brew.
It is so good. So
you might get a little zooted if you do,
yeah.
but
I'm so glad that it's back out. So you guys can, as of today, go on over to deathwishcoffee.com and grab some up.
So we'll be roasting something pretty cool here soon, and you might have tried it before, but the barrels have been cracked.
Yep.
The beans have been let loose, and we're just aerating them now, and we're going to come out with a couple lines of barrel brand coffee soon.
Yeah, I know. I love hearing from the community at large how much they enjoy the barrel brand coffee, and it is such a limited thing. We've said it on the podcast before because we let these beans age in rum and bourbon barrels, or sometimes other different types of spirits, but this time it's rum and bourbon, and then we roast them up. But you have to understand the process that is. So it's like we can't make the quantity that we would of just normal Death Wish or Valhalla.
Yeah,
Java,
I think that's what makes it so magical, though, is that you need to put forth effort, and there is very little supply, and it's like gold,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
And the thing I like about the barrel brand is that a sophisticated tongue will pick up all like the crazy layers that we're making with this, but even somebody who's not a usual coffee drinker will enjoy the crazy notes that we're creating with this coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's pretty great. So I mean, not 100% soon, but just so you know, like you said, D-Man, the beans are out of the barrel, so the process is in full effect at this point.
A lot of things are happening over here at Death Wish, and then on top of that, we have some sort of playlist going on, Jeff.
Yeah. Grind It Out is in full effect. We actually are going to talk about that a little bit with our guest this week, but you guys have probably seen it on the website. If you haven't, go on over to deathwishcoffee.com and look at all of the cool content that we've got for Grind It Out. We just released our first little mini doc on a blacksmith, which is incredible. I'm so interested in blacksmiths because it's one of those old world skills that is still being used today, and it's really, really cool documentary that our team made. And also, we're going to start rolling out Spotify playlists. So if you are a fan of Spotify and you use it, you can go on over and look for Death Wish Coffee, but you can find it right on deathwishcoffee.com and listen to our first Spotify playlist. There's some really good stuff on there, like the Pixies and David Bowie and A$AP Rock, and some good tunes on that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we got a sample in from Deneen.
Oh, I touched it today. I touched it with my own hands. It's real, people.
So we know what the Abraham Lincoln mug is going to look like.
Yeah, we sure do. And it looks...
Oh, did I let the cat out of the bag?
Did I
tell him?
You already did. It looks incredible. So as you guys have heard before on this podcast, our next big mug release will be for Independence Day, July 4th. It'll obviously hit slightly before that, but as we're just getting you amped up for it. It's months away.
This thing's a tankard.
Yeah.
This thing's big. I didn't know it was going to be this big. I can't wait.
Yeah,
it looks awesome.
Me too. It's a great awesome, and it's awesome.
Got some purple in there.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. I think the Abraham Lincoln design looks awesome.
Yeah,
Thomas nails it as always.
Can't wait for you guys to get your hands on that. So keep listening, keep checking the website as it gets
sometime
closer.
Around 4th of July.
Yeah, as it gets closer to July, we'll be talking even more about that. And got anything else? No, we should just stop, right?
Cutting it off there.
Okay. Tune in next week and we'll have more for you.
Cheers.
Wake the cup up!
So I feel like at this point we've talked about Thomas so much he barely needs an introduction.
I know. Thomas Dragonette is our in-house graphic designer, and he's incredible.
Yeah.
He's not only is he our in-house graphic designer, he's our in-house cool guy.
Yeah. Oh wait, that's not me.
No, but like you said, D-Man, we've name checked him on almost every single episode because he's constantly coming out with new merchandise, new designs, new, even new
Almost
the
inventions.
images that you're seeing online, the photos that he's taking. He's a workhorse for us, and it was so great to finally get him in front of a microphone and have him
on
talk.
top of all those cool things, he's got a cool backstory.
Yeah, totally.
It's like origins of Thomas here. It's awesome.
So sit tight and listen to Thomas Dragonette.
Enjoy.
The Fueled by Death guest.
So, Thomas,
Hello.
I would like to start this off with. We usually start off with the other employees with this question, with the changes they have seen in the company since they started to where they are now. Because I mean, just about every person has seen so much change within this company with a small amount of time. But you've been here for about a year and a half.
Yeah, it'll be 2 years this September, so we're like right in the middle of that.
Yeah, nice. So what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in this company since you've been here?
Well, I mean, do you want me to talk about the building or just
Yeah, both.
everything in general?
Yeah.
Like,
Did you start over in the smaller building?
yeah, so I started next door, as did probably most of the people that are here, right?
Yeah. Well, not Jeff. Jeff
yeah,
just started
not
here.
Me, I started over here.
So yeah, we were, I think 9 people crammed into like a 600 square foot space, which I can't put that how small it really is when you
Yeah.
get that many people that close together, but it was hot and tight and that sounds gross. Or maybe it doesn't sound gross. But either way, yeah, it was a small space. So moving from that to this has been awesome. So there's that aspect. There's the aspect of before I started, there was no graphic designer. Everything was freelanced out.
How did they do the designs before you even came in house?
They would use either freelance people or people online that they found. There's
like
sites,
Fiverr.
yeah, all those
Yeah.
kind of like crappy sites that devalue my job. I mean, no offense to them, they're a small business, so they didn't want to pay a graphic designer full time to be
Yeah.
there making stuff, which I understand. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it makes people like me who do this for a living not be able to charge the prices that we would want to.
Yeah.
Were you aware of Death Wish Coffee before you started working here?
I actually was. I've known about them. Well, they're from my hometown, and also before I worked for Death Wish, I worked for a privately owned food market named shout out Healthy Living Market. I was their graphic designer, and so they were one of the first stores to pick up Death Wish. So I had seen the company like from its infancy, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And to see that and then like a year later be working for them, which is kind of weird and
Yeah.
awesome at the same time.
How cool of that was a move from Healthy Living to Death Wish Coffee Company?
It was cool. Healthy Living was a great place to work. It was really chill environment, like
Yeah.
sort of like this, but
Way less skulls.
Yeah, totally different branding and like I don't know. I'm a skateboarder, and
Yeah.
so this kind of was like more in line with what I was into, and I wanted a little bit more creative freedom.
Yeah.
Obviously, you work for a brand, so you have to like fit inside those guidelines, but there was more creative freedom here, so that's a blessing.
Yeah. Can you talk about your background a little bit on how you came to art designing and all that goodness?
Sure. So I've always been into art. High school, did it through there. I went to college for 2 years and got an associate's degree in media design, which doesn't really actually mean anything. I was really into photography at the time,
Yeah.
but I also took a bunch of graphic design classes. So yeah, that's how I got started. But through the years, like I just was always practicing and reading and, creating, whether it was music or visual art. I've always just been drawn to that sort of stuff. So once I moved around a little bit. I lived in Buffalo. I lived in San Francisco for a few years, and I've always been surrounded by creative people.
Yeah.
So I think when you are surrounded by people who are, making things, it inspires you to make things.
Yeah.
So when I came back here, my now wife and I, we opened our own studio in downtown Saratoga because she's a fine art photographer. And so I had, having a space to be able to create allows you to like have that freedom. And at the time, oh man, I was working like a crappy warehouse job because we had just moved back, and I wanted to make sure we had income to keep the studio space and be able to, exactly, be able to eat. So, I transitioned out of that warehouse job to the design job at Healthy Living Market, and here I am now sitting next to you doing a radio podcast talking about my life, which is weird.
What brought you back to Saratoga after hanging out in awesome San Francisco and pretty cool Buffalo?
Well, this is my home, and so family and friends are always like a magnet to bring you back. So there was that. There was also the fact that while we were in San Francisco, it's a beautiful city and, you know, some of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And it's the skateboard mecca of the United States, which, you know, is enticing to someone who rides a skateboard. So there was that. But that being said, when I lived there, it's super expensive for one. Yeah. So you're spending, you know, the majority of your time working.
Yeah.
And so enjoying the city, unless you're making like 6 figures a year, is a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
So there was that factor. And then also it was the housing bubble like burst when we were living there. So one day I get home from work and some lady's like pounding on my door, and she's like, so I open the door. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what's up? And she's like, you have to move out of your house. It's been foreclosed on. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Whoa.
Yeah. Like, first of all, who are you? Second of all, like, sorry, I'm not just moving out of my house because some random person told me I have to.
Yeah, I'm going to try that move.
Yeah.
See a house I like, just pound on the door. Sorry, we foreclosed on this house. Oh, okay, I guess I give up.
Yeah, so after like, you know, a few minute conversation of who she was, blah, 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 the person who had owned the house went into bankruptcy, and this was like one of their extra properties, and of course that's like the first thing to go.
Yeah.
So we were forced to leave, but not before like recoup. They basically, our deposit to move into that place was like almost $8,000, which is a lot of money. Like that's so much fucking money.
Yeah.
So we were like, well, what do we do? Do we eat the $8,000 and then try to find another place to live in a housing crash, like pay another $8,000 and move in somewhere else, or do we just cut our losses and like head home and try to like figure a new game plan out? And that's what we did. After all is said and done, it's like, it's not worth it. Like, we enjoy living here, but to work this hard.
Yeah. It's a weird balance, right? You move to a place that has a lot of stuff to do, and you tend to have less money to do that. And you move to a place that's a little bit cheaper to live, but there's not much to do with all the money that you're saving.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quality of living thing too. Like now, you know, I have way more disposable income because my rent or mortgage is much cheaper, which allows me to travel to places and enjoy those places.
Yeah.
Where when I was there, you don't have that luxury because most of your money's spent on like living.
Yeah.
So, and also the other fact is like, so depending on how awesome your job is and your boss, you might get two weeks off a year, or you might get 4. But either way, like you have to decide, all right, so which of those weeks do I have to go home and see family and friends? And then, so do I get to actually take a vacation this year, or is it just going home to see family and friends? Which is awesome, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you're like, maybe I want to go to Mexico. Maybe I want to go to Hawaii, whatever. But you have to make those decisions. So all in all, it's good to be back.
Yeah, I bet.
I like it here. It's awesome.
Yeah, and with this job, we do get to do a lot of cool traveling, which is a really nice perk for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And we're like centrally located to everything. We have the Adirondack Mountains, which are beautiful. We have New York City, which is, you know, a couple hours away.
Yeah.
If you want to get that fix of city life. Or,
it's kind of funny when we're out at other places and they're like, "Where are you from?" And it's like, nowhere really.
Yeah.
We're just up in the mountains, just kind of chilling, roasting coffee. But
the thing I miss most, and everyone who knows me personally knows how much of a pig I am and how much I like to eat, and so the food is like the major thing that I miss most.
Yeah, I bet.
The diversity there, it's incredible, and you don't get that here. Like
even in Buffalo, the food is next level good.
Yeah, but San Francisco is like
New York.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you started here at Death Wish, what was some of the first stuff when you, because like you said, you were brought on as, graphic design, which the company did not have in-house until that point. So what were some of the first projects that you actually started working on for the company?
So it was a lot of more of like organization stuff. I was designing, but it was a lot of like organization stuff because there was nobody in-house doing that. So there was files like in every direction that you could think of, in like folders that you couldn't find. There was
I'm having flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, we're still going through the cleaning up process of that now. But I've tried to build a system where it's easy to find things. But yeah, so that was like, I would say also, mind you, I was only working Monday through Thursday. I kind of like took a gamble taking this job because I gave up a job with like amazing benefits and vacation time to basically take on a part-time job.
Right.
Sometimes you got to do that.
Yeah, and I did. I had other offerings, and sorry, I'm getting off topic here.
No,
but
go.
Yeah, so I was only working 4 days a week, so it was like even that 1 day a week makes a huge difference. Like I would come back on Monday and like a bunch of stuff had changed. So yeah,
that probably didn't last too long, that 4 day a week.
Well, yeah. Also, like when I got hired, it was a few months before the whole Super Bowl thing, like kind of was like starting to kick off, and that was part of the reason for them hiring
Pun intended.
me. Yeah, yeah. So I was definitely designing, but more of just trying to like build some structure to that, like bag designs that all looked the same. Using the same fonts on everything so that when you saw the brand, you were like, oh yeah, that's Death Wish Coffee. Just, some basic things, foundational things that help, it's easier to build off of when you have stability. So yeah, that was for the first, I would say 6 months. I was designing things, but it was more of just like, the staples that we needed: bags, boxes, t-shirt, like basic t-shirts design. I didn't really get into like doing product stuff until like 6 or 7 months. Also, there was a feeling out phase. Like John, who I love to death, was that was like kind of his baby, and so he was not going to let some dude who just started, who he doesn't know, like take over those responsibilities.
Right.
This is his and Mike's company from the beginning, and they made those decisions. So, but it's good. I think you should earn your trust with whoever you're working with. So
totally. And we have been excited to get you on this podcast for a while because we name check you probably every episode.
Every time, every single time.
Yeah, because you have now cemented yourself to the point where almost all the time we're coming out with a new product that either you've had a hand in or you've designed from the ground up.
Created.
Yeah.
I mean, you're at the base level to the finishing parts. You're the design guy now.
It's the
I'm
truth.
lucky.
And one of the things we like to ask people in that kind of position in this company is it's fun to think about, because what Death Wish is really based on is this idea of just get out there and do it. Don't worry about the if and when and all that stuff. Just try it, and that's kind of how we have created this juggernaut of a company. And in your position as a designer, we always love to ask this question: like, have there been ideas that you've kind of thrown against the wall and didn't stick? We don't like to call them failures, but have there been things that this is gonna work out great, and it turned out not to work out so well?
Yes.
Awesome.
That's almost the same answer everybody gives.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. Although with mine, I would say the majority of them never even get past the idea stage. Mainly because you're going to have to spend a shitload of money to get this stuff made.
Yeah.
And you're, it's probably not a good idea if half the team thinks it's a horrible idea to do it.
Yeah.
So I can't think of any off the top of my head that were like failures in the sense that we lost like a crap load of money, or it was like people just weren't responding. Actually, there was one. We made those hat and scarf sets this year, which I thought were going to be awesome, but people weren't like really receptive to it.
I think, I think they were awesome. I think we probably bought too many.
Yeah.
But I still think those are
So,
awesome.
all right, so maybe they weren't a failure, but they weren't like I had the idea like, oh, we're gonna get like a custom. Before we were doing Carhartt hats with a patch on it, which is cool. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I thought like, oh, a custom designed hat and scarf set like Death Wish. It has our embroidery and everything on it, but it didn't do as well as I thought it would do. But those things happen.
That's true.
That's part of it.
But yeah, most of the stuff we usually kill in meetings, and people get mad and cry. Not really, but they it turns into like a bickering match, and then So
The thing I love about it here, though, like people speak their mind brutally sometimes.
yeah,
But
it's a blessing and a curse, I think.
It's a blessing and it's a curse, but it's only a curse for a little while because we come back the next day and it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
We've all got pretty thick skin here, which is important when it comes to constructive criticism or
sure.
other kinds of criticism.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you talk about your influences a little bit? Like where you, like what got you wanting to become an art designer, a photographer? Like who was it that sparked that interest?
So it started at home. My mom was a aspiring photographer when she was young, and my dad was he was a commercial painter, but he painted murals, so he's like cool. Contracted. So I was always surrounded by two artistic people, and both of them were forced. They weren't forced, but they had twins. I have a twin brother who's a photographer.
I thought that was a joke at first.
Yeah,
That's just you with long hair and a funny mustache.
No,
totally. It's my brother, and so, having twins at, I think they were like 22 years old. And mind you, I could go into the story, but I won't. My mom didn't know, or my dad, they didn't know they were having twins. The doctor, up until birthing my brother, told my mom she was only having one kid.
Oh, my God.
So
which one's the favorite?
Yeah, were you the surprise?
I was a surprise. Yeah. And my mom was like, this is a quote. And the doctor, like my brother got shot out of the womb, and the doctor went to do whatever they do after you have a baby, and he was like, oh, shit. And my mom's like, what? And he's like, there's another baby in there. And she's like, what? Leave it in there. I'm not going through this again.
Oh, my God.
And the doctor's like, you have to push. I can't fucking leave a baby inside of you.
Oh, my God.
So, and then my dad, like, nearly fainted because it was already like, oh, my God, we only have one stroller and one car seat and one set of clothes. So he, like, called his mom on the phone, and his mom's like, you're a liar. And he's like, no. She's literally giving birth to a second baby right now.
That's crazy.
They were forced to give up, their passions to take care of two babies.
Yeah.
But I always knew growing up, like my dad always still drew. My mom was like always talking about photography and showing us photos. So that had an impact on us. And then being a skateboarder in a like kind of rich area forces you to not conform to like normal things. So I was into music and art, and at the time, like in the 90s, skateboarding was it's not like how it is now. It's not like glamorized. Like
there was no X Games.
No. There's no Ryan Sheckler's. Like
there was no Tony Hawk.
Yeah, there was a Tony Hawk, but it wasn't like big like it was.
Yeah.
Like there weren't like cool videos and like commercials with skateboarders.
Tony Hawk didn't do the 900.
No,
yet,
he hadn't
anyways.
done the 900 yet. So like we were looked at as like the dirtbag kids in school. So we all stuck together, and some of the most talented people I know came out of that group. Actually, almost.
Can you talk about that group a little bit?
Yeah. So like Jeremy Fish, who's one of the most influential people in my life, is like seeing that guy go from insane skateboard kid and say he moved to San Francisco to pursue art, and he's like now the godfather of San Francisco. That's and great. Just like in art in general, like seeing him like being determined and like work through college and stick with his art, that influenced me in a major way. Seeing that, like, all right, it just takes a lot of hard work and time and dedication, and you can do what you want to do, but you have to stick with it. I think most people, especially now with social media, like see successful people, but they don't realize how much work goes into all of that, and so they get bummed out and quit. And you can't. Like the people who are successful are the people that like work hardest through the times when most people would quit. And so I kind of did the same thing. I just, slowly but surely, I had odd jobs, and I wasn't working in the field that I wanted to, but I just kept with it and kept reading and learning and teaching myself, and eventually got to the point that I'm at now where I'm happy with what I do and I get to create every day, and that's a blessing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, as we've said on this podcast before, like you're constantly pumping out stuff for this company, and I would love to talk about some of the things that you're working on that are coming out that are just hitting. In fact, the big one that has just hit right now is our brand new campaign, the Grind It Out campaign.
Yeah. So I would not consider myself a marketing person, but I kind of like fall into that category because so much of marketing is visual now. So I'm like constantly working with the marketing team, which is awesome, by the way. Shout out to Tay and Alyssa. They kill it.
Yeah.
And Jeff. And actually, you know what? Everybody who works here does marketing.
Yeah, a little
At
bit.
the end of the day, like, this is marketing.
Yeah.
Everyone on social media that shouts us out regularly.
I feel like that goes with a good team, though. Like you were talking about earlier, if half the team doesn't think it's a good idea, we usually don't pull the trigger, and it's because we are a good team. We rely on each other for decision making.
Yeah.
And that's important because if you're in it, you're creating, you're invested in it, you need the viewpoint of somebody outside who you can trust with an opinion that's like, I'm sorry, I know you've been working on this so hard, but I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah.
That's so important.
And at the end of the day, we're all consumers. And we all didn't work for this company at one point. So we, bring different viewpoints to the table, which is smart. You should listen to everyone. Like the guy who's taking out the garbage, his opinion's just as valuable as mine. Like he might have saw something along the way and been like, oh, this would be a great idea. And then, so bring your ideas to the table. And that's why we are successful.
And
because
the diversity too, like if it's a comic book thing, we're talking to Jeff. If it's a skater thing, we talk to you. If it were a fighter thing, they'd be talking to me.
Right.
We do a really good job of splitting that up. But sorry, back to Grind It Out.
Yeah, totally. So I was like, well, we were, we won the Super. Can I say Super Bowl on the radio show?
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
We won the Super Bowl commercial, which was basically
No, we won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we did win the Super Bowl. In a way, we did.
Yeah.
And so the following year was the company telling, its story, where it came from, what it's all about. So we were talking about the coffee and like who we are a lot, which was awesome. Everyone needed to know, like, what's this brand? Oh my God, people are like,
who are these people?
Who are these people?
Right.
So that was the message. And, after talking with the marketing team, and we were talking about like, well, what's our course of action moving forward? And so we decided that this year in 2017, we wanted to, turn the spotlight off of ourselves and put it on the people who basically got us the Super Bowl commercial, but also who like drink our coffee every day.
Right.
And so we came up with the concept of Grind It Out. So, almost everybody has a job, and most people that I think go to work every day are passionate about what they do. Otherwise you wouldn't get up and do it.
Right.
And even if you're just doing it to feed your kids, at the end of the day, you're you're passionate
grind,
about something. Yeah. So so the Grind It Out concept came from that. And so we wanted to highlight those people, everyday people, the regular, not just, like star, every company has like their star athletes and influencers that they do commercials with. And they're like, check out who we got on board backing us. But like, that's not really authentic, because at the end of the day, you're paying that guy probably 6 or 7 figures to talk about your brand.
Right.
Awesome. Way to go. So we went to the approach of, let's talk about and do a campaign that is people who are right down the street from you, or who pick up your garbage, or who built that chair that you're sitting on. We didn't pay these people. These people were enthusiastic to be part of it because we were going to tell their story. And by us telling their story, they're telling our story. This is our coffee and this is how it lives. That's kind of like the tagline for the campaign. And it makes sense. I mean, these guys are the ones getting up day after day after day after day and like doing their grind. So yeah, that's where we're at.
And there's many more people that are doing that than the people who are rock stars and
Yeah,
celebrities
totally.
and stuff like that.
Exactly. And that's honestly, one of my favorite movies is A Bronx Tale. And
I
there's
love that movie.
there's a line in it that he Colangelo, or however you say his name, says, like, I think the gangster dude says, the working man's a sucker, and Robert De Niro's character says the working man's not a sucker. It takes way more strength to get up day after day and do your job than it does to, like, get fast money. And it's true. Like, that actually stuck with me since I was a kid, watching my mom and dad, like, struggle but work hard. It really that takes a lot more courage. Yeah, it does, because it's easy to make fast money, the reward,
especially if you're born into it.
Yeah,
like, who cares?
Yeah, but to get up, and even if you're doing a job you hate, to get up every single day and do that, takes a lot of guts and courage to do. So,
and I think anybody truly successful, if they don't come from a background like that, they watch their parents, struggle through life, and I think that struggle is so important, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You need that adversity. You need something pushing you down in order to push back up. Otherwise, it's like,
what's the point of living if you're just handed everything in your life? You don't understand the value of hard work. There's nothing better than working hard on something and getting, like, frustrated and mad and wanting to, like, throw your hands up and be like, fuck this, I quit. Mm-hmm. But then you, like, work through it, and when it's done, you're like, holy shit, I did that. I made that. Like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, if you get it just from, like, if it's just given to you, there's no gratification. There's something really special in that. Like, I'm gonna say the misery of grinding it out, because in the end, when you finally grind it out, it's like, yes, I have achieved.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where this whole thing is, like, it's I don't know. I can't even put it into words. It's more of like a feeling than it is like a sound bite. I can't. It's hard to explain it, and I'm not like a man of good words. So I'm not like Donald. Guy. I'm not like Donald Trump. I'm not good with words or whatever he says. I use lots of words.
Your hands are normal size.
I don't go like this all the time. But yeah, so grind it out. Keep your eyes peeled, or actually, keep your eyes peeled for that. And it's
so. How's that going to go? You're going to roll out different people each week, or it'll start with, like, an introductory sort of video, kind of an all-encompassing 60-second commercial that will tell the story of what Grind It Out is. And then every other week, we'll be releasing a mini doc on a certain individual and their grind. And it kind of just, like, explains the person and, like, maybe a little bit about where they came from and what they do, and, like, shows... obviously it's a video, so it's visual. It shows like what they do and kind of tells a story about a day in their life without being super intrusive. That's so cool.
It's a candid view. Like, we didn't, like, none of it's scripted, none of it's, like, staged. We literally followed these people around. And
how was that? That must have been pretty cool.
It was so interesting.
Is there anything you took away from all that?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's lessons in everything, and I learned so much as well. Listening to somebody else talk about where they are and how they got there is super inspiring. Yeah. No matter how, like, menial the job is. Like I said before, like, the guy that takes out the garbage, like, even him doing that, there's a lesson to be learned in, like, how you do that. So following these people around and figuring out, like, how did they get there, and, like, why do they do it, and what keeps them doing it, that's, like, super inspiring. So yeah, I learned so much, and it literally, at the end of the day, I'm like, oh man, that, like, gave me an idea to do something else for this project, or, like, inspired me to work harder. Maybe I'm not spending enough time on, this project. Let me focus a little bit more on this aspect of it. So I think listening is an important thing that not enough people do. Yeah. And so, if you listen a little bit more, you might learn something, a little gem.
Yeah. I think wait, I got a perfect segue.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So after talking to all these people to see what brings them to what they're doing, what fuels you to do what you do every day?
Oh, man, that's such a tough question. We've been asking everybody else that question.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it can't be that hard to answer. And
Why
then ask
are
me,
you here, Thomas?
Why was I born? Actually, I have no idea. My mom didn't know I was there.
It was a surprise.
I was a surprise. What fuels me? Well, food fuels me.
Yes.
I do love food. But I think, oh man, this is tough.
Well, I mean, I think like we've almost touched on it a little bit because we've been with you on your journey and you've talked about, you know, the importance of, like you said, with this campaign, grinding it out and working hard. But I mean, to really hit that nail on the head, like what fuels you to keep getting up every day and trying something new and coming up with new ideas and designing and applying yourself?
So I knew this. I've known this for a long time. And one of our subjects, Coley, who's a florist, she also is into writing and poetry. I think she's like an English major. Anyway, she spoke about this book, and I can't remember the name of it, but I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, she talked about this writer, and there's like this thing. I don't know what he wrote about. But anyway, to get to the point, since I was a kid and like skating, there was like, and as I got older, like everyone was like, why do you still skateboard or why do you still make art? Like that's stuff that little kids do. Like get a real job. You know how many times I've heard get a real job. So anyway, and there's something special about those things because it's just you and the skateboard or you and your pencil or you and your whatever, you know, that you're working on. And no matter how good you get on your skateboard or at your art, there's always a next level. And so that's what fuels me. Like no matter how good I get at my job or how good I get at skateboarding, there's always another level to get to. Like those things progress at a faster rate than you can as a human being. And so the fact that like, oh man, I just learned this new trick or I just learned this new like brush stroke or whatever, like great. There's five more styles or 5 more tricks that you still can't do. So now on to the next one. Yeah. And so like honing your craft, to me, that's the reason to stay alive. I would hate to get up every day and be like perfect at something because how shitty would that be? Yeah. Like I'm the master. Like even the masters, you know, they have the title of master, but they're always practicing and always getting better. Yeah. And that's how you become a master of anything. So yeah, that's what fuels me is like the
achieving.
Yeah. That it's
goals.
It's like infinite. You can never, for things like that, you can, no matter how good you are, you can always be better. And so learning, you know, just always learning. And
I think it's in our DNA to just push those boundaries.
But I feel bad because there's people out there that don't have that drive that, and no disrespect to them. I don't know. Maybe it's just they're content with it. But like the idea of like going to work, going home, watching TV, eating dinner, and going to sleep is
rinse and repeat.
Oh man, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of living if you're not like learning how to do something or be better at something? I don't know.
That's it. That's distilled right there. That's pretty awesome.
So that's what drives me is like the fact that I can always be and bettering yourself. And it doesn't even have to be like, oh man, I'm gonna get all like deep on you guys.
Go for it.
I'm ready.
It doesn't even have to be like better at something. Just being a better human being. Like, you know, we live in a pretty rough time right now.
I think it's always rough.
It is, and it goes through phases, obviously. But like right now, it's like pretty rough. There's like a lot of turmoil, and it's not politically or not. Like people are at each other's throat in a horrible way. So like, if you're not getting better at drawing, get better at being nice to people. Like you can always better yourself in more capacities than one. So
totally.
I don't know. That's
if we didn't have that drive, we'd still be monkeys throwing poop at each other.
Yeah,
you know?
That's the truth. And that's awesome. To lighten the mood, real quick, we always ask our employees this at the end of the podcast because we're very curious.
Are we at the end?
We're there.
I really like talking to you guys, and I'm not really a big talker.
We like talking to you too. But one question that we want to know from all employees of Death Wish Coffee is, what's your favorite, Death Wish, or Valhalla Java?
No.
Come on.
And no bullshit answer.
You gotta
Is that
pick
even
one.
a fucking question?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Death Wish.
There we go.
Sorry,
there we go.
Zach. I mean, Death Wish
Hey,
all day.
you are.
And
I
you have
think,
to drink it black. Sorry, people.
There it is. There it is. I think you're the first person that we've asked that question to who has had a definitive answer. Because that's why we preface it with no bullshit, because we constantly get, well, they each have
If you
their
want
good,
the caffeinated kick, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Get out of
You
here.
heard it. You heard it. Thomas said Death Wish black, or
Yeah.
get the F out.
Yeah. Or just drink water. I don't know.
Love it.
Where do you see the company going in the future? Is there any excitement you have for future developments in the next 5 years?
Oh, man. Sky's the limit at
Yeah.
this point. Every day we're growing and getting stronger and getting better at what we do. And so I don't see a limitation at this point. I don't see and coffee is one of those things that everybody drinks it, or almost everybody. It's the second largest commodity in the world. So at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't see any limitations. Our limitations are only on ourselves. If we stop caring and stop trying to push the boundaries, then we'll limit ourselves. But if we don't and just keep swinging for the fences, we'll make it there.
I think that's the thing I love about this company, is that you can feel it. You can feel the potential. We're successful, but we can still be better.
Yeah.
And we haven't even reached that yet.
And I think that it comes back to what I was saying before, is so many companies get comfortable and they're all right, we've made it. We're $1 million company. And
We were in the Super Bowl. We're good.
We're
yeah.
successful. It's yeah, you're successful to a point, but guess what? You can be even more successful.
Totally.
And successful isn't just monetary, but
I think that's why it's important to have huge goals, because if you have that $10 million goal, well, done, great, wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's Mike has this huge goal of just we want to be the next Red Bull. It's more than just coffee. It's a lifestyle. It's a personality, and I love that aspect. That sky's the limit.
Yeah.
yeah, and it totally is. And we can be the next Red Bull. Watch out, Red Bull, we're coming for you.
Heck yeah.
We can be bigger than Red Bull. You
Yeah.
know, maybe one day we'll be shooting rockets into space, or who knows?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we're shooting rockets into space in the parking lot.
By the way, those are bottle rockets.
If this doesn't actually happen, I'm going to be really upset. I'm bringing in bottle rockets tomorrow.
yeah.
Excellent.
But yeah, so who knows what the future holds? But if we just continue to stay on the path that we are and keep pushing each other to do the best that we can, I don't see a limit in front of us at this point. We kind of created this niche in the coffee industry, and we own it.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the imposters out there that are trying to take shots at us, good luck.
Yeah, they're way behind the
Because
ball.
at the end of the day, if you guys are copying what we're doing, then you're already you're behind. If you're copying what we've already done, we're already 10 steps ahead of you, because we're thinking about the next thing. So good luck to you.
That's the way I think about it too. It's man, what we've had to do to get here, even though we pioneered this way, they just have so much more to go to get to even where we are, as far as the trials that we had to go through. They're going to be going through all that, even dealing with Amazon. It's just they're going to have to deal with that, because that is a monster.
And like we were saying before, we earned this. We blood, sweat, and tears earned this. And so that's why we are where we're at. And we were saying something's handed to you, you don't appreciate it as much. These other companies, I'm not saying that they're not hard workers or whatever, but they're basically on our coattail. So
that first dollar comes easy.
Yeah, we paved the way for them. Oh yeah, you guys, we're the strongest coffee, blah blah blah. No, we are, and we carved out this arena for you to be in. So, you guys better be pushing the envelope harder than we are, because we're not letting off the gas.
It's impossible, man.
Yeah.
The overtime it took to make this happen is unbelievable.
Yep.
I'd love to actually see a number of hours worked overtime to not that it's about working overtime. It's about working smart, not hard. But if you're working smart and hard, which is what happens here.
And surrounding yourself with people that are on the same page as you, because you can hire people that are just like collecting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can also hire people that are hungry.
Yeah. I feel like if you have an atmosphere where you are hiring a lot of people who are hungry and motivated and you create this culture, if you're not that, you kind of just fall by the wayside and slowly drip out of the bottle. You're just not there anymore.
Yeah, he's left in the dust.
It's what I've seen in almost work atmosphere that I've been in before, where it's an atmosphere. It's created, and if you don't fit within that creation, you're just gonna fall out. You're just gonna get squeezed out.
Yeah.
But here, it's such a healthy creation of just that hungry, motivated, creative thing that it's a great culture that we've built here.
Yeah,
it's pretty
definitely.
amazing.
So yeah,
Awesome.
I don't know. We're
On that note, how do people follow Mr. Thomas Dragonette?
you can come to my house and follow me that way. No, I'm not going to give you my address. As far as what, like social media?
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
Anything you want to plug?
yeah.
or-
I'm not a huge social media guy. I am on Instagram. You can follow me at Mr. Dragonette,
There it
which
is.
is MisterDragonette.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You can email me at thomas@deathwish.
Your Instagram's pretty on point though, because I mean you're always putting out new ideas and new stuff you're working on, so it's really cool to follow.
I need
you
to
on
get
that.
better at. It's funny. I like work with the marketing department, and then on my own time, I'm like the worst social media guy ever. Like I go on there like maybe once a day. I post maybe like 3 times a week, but I need to get better at it. But
Well,
I like the social media just to keep in touch with what people are talking about with the company and what they like. I mean, for me, I love it when we have new releases and I can go through the hashtag and see how many people love the thing that they're getting, and that gives me a real idea of like what works and what doesn't.
yeah, that's always cool. That's one of the things I love about my job too, is like getting to make something is awesome, but getting to see people enjoy it is even more awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it really
that's the
is.
best feeling in the world. You can't, like, money can't buy that. Like,
Yeah.
making like that, oh shit, that came out of my brain, and
Yeah.
those people love that thing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
yeah,
That's very
it is
satisfying.
cool.
All right, Thomas, thank you so much for sitting with
Yeah,
us.
thanks,
Yeah,
man.
thanks for having me, guys.
Cheers.
All right.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.